Well, hello, everybody. This is Tim Green with Rattle Magazine. Welcome to Poets Respond Live, our Sunday morning news show exploring current events through the lens of poetry. Thanks so much for joining me. As always, Rattle is a publication of the Rattle Foundation, a 501c3 nonprofit working to promote the practice of poetry. We were founded by Alan Fox in 1995, and we just do it because we love poetry. I know you love poetry too, which is why you're here, so please do click the like button and share and do anything good you can to spread poetry around the internet. That always helps. We always ask for that, and that's pretty much all we ever ask for, so please do that. Especially, I'd like everybody to know, we're starting to have a little bit of a reach collapse on Facebook. I think they really try to squeeze pages and make it so you can't, you don't reach your audience anymore. So we have like 25,000 followers, and our posts only reach 1,000 of them. And so if you could, please click the like button at any time, or share if possible, or comment if possible. Anytime you see a post on Facebook, if you're on Facebook from Rattle, because that helps a lot. Keep us at the top of their algorithm, which for pages means increasingly less and less. Well, I'm really glad that I could actually join you today. We had 2 power outages in the last 2 hours. So if I pop off the air, that's what happened. We're supposed to get 6 inches of snow yesterday, and we have over a foot. I have a new camera, which we got a couple weeks ago, and that means I have an extra camera. So I thought I'd set this up too. And this is our snow cam. So take a peek. This is my view out the window. That's my neighbor's house down the hill a little bit. You can see on the hummingbird feeder, that's our snow gauge. You can see that's over a foot, if you can tell the scale there. And this is a beautiful view I have, by the way. Anytime we're doing the Rattlecast, you can't really see with a low resolution camera here, but it's kind of like having an aquarium for birds or something. There's western flickers and all sorts of hummingbirds and doves. All sorts of birds live out here, and it's fun watching them the whole time. So if I ever look up during the show in this direction, you know what I'm looking at. Anyway, so if we have power for now, which is great. And as long as we still have power, we have a lot of wonderful stuff to go over today. And the first poet we're going to do is, of course, today's poem, the Sunday poem by Clint Margrave. And let's call up Clint. Before I even do that, I should tell you that these are the phone numbers. If you'd like to participate, somehow my head's huge. If you'd like to participate, what you do, this is how it works. If you sent the poem already through Submittable, if you submitted it, then you can, let me see, I can kind of fix this a little bit. There we go, that's a little better. If you send it through Submittable, I can put it up on screen, but if you haven't, email it to openmic@rattle.com, or if you've revised it since you submitted, you can do that too, and I can show it on screen through the email. And then after you've done that, once we have the poems so we can show it to everybody, because it's nice to read along with poems, then give me a call at 818-850-7727. That's 818-850-7727. Let it ring a couple times, then hang up. I will call you back when the time is right. That's how we do it here, because we have no call screeners. Even better, if you can do Skype, send me a chat message over Skype to Rattle Poetry, all one word. Same deal. I'll call you back when the time is right. We'll go in the order that the calls were received. And I'm also trying a new, what's it called, low latency mode. So I don't know if it's going to make the video choppy or better. There's usually a little lag between me and the Skype caller, which makes it seem like I'm talking over them a little bit. So hopefully we fix that. But if it doesn't work, I might have to restart. But we'll find out. So first we're going to call up Clint Margrave, today's poet with Toad Dies and Goes to Heaven. And let's talk to Clint here. Hey, Clint, how you doing? Let me pull you into screen for everybody. Yeah, how you doing today?
Good. How about you?
I'm doing great. It's an eventful little morning here up in Wrightwood. We got a lot of snow and the power keeps cutting out, but I'm glad we made it. So your poem is about Gerald Lachlan, of course, and I just love it when poets do tributes to poets. I think it's so important that we remember the people who were so influential. It's sort of poetry is a little community, and the people who matter really matter, and it's really important that we remember them, I think. So I'm so glad we could publish this poem. But do you want to just talk a little bit about Gerald and how you met him and what he meant to you first?
Yeah, I actually began by being just a fan of his work. I think I found him through Bukowski, like a lot of people did. Some of the letters between the two of them, and then at some point I moved, or I was working in Long Beach at Borders Bookstore, and Jerry used to come in there, and we would have readings for him. And eventually, I just got to talk to him, and then eventually, I went to Cal State Long Beach, became a student, and now I work there. So
did you go to Cal State Long Beach because of him?
I did actually.
Wow.
In some ways, I was looking for that. Yeah, him and a few other people like Charles Webb, Stephen Cooper, who's the biographer of John Fonte, because I was really into Bukowski, Fonte, and Lachlan. So yeah, I was seeking these people out at some point, and so yeah, it was intentional.
Yeah, and Gerald Laughlin's famous for his style, which is very like plain spoken and straightforward and not flowery at all. And so is yours. You can see the influence between sort of the lineage. It's sort of a family tree, maybe through Bukowski and Lachlan, and through to Margrave too. One of the with limbs out on that tree. What do you think was the I don't know certain lessons that he taught you that you use still, or that you think about a lot?
Um, well, I actually never had him as an actual teacher
Oh,
for
really?
poetry. I took a literary theory class with him, but he taught me more just through his work itself. And a lot of what he taught me is simplicity and clarity and brevity. All three of those things are huge traits that I admire in poetry and all writing, really. So, and humor, humor. He's a very funny poet,
Mm-hmm.
and that whole, Charles Webb as well, and stand-up poetry, and that whole scene from whatever in the 80s, 90s that grew out of that, were a lot of humor. And, people think of poetry as being very grim or serious all the time, but part of life is also being funny, and enjoying that. So I think Jerry really had that spirit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that I think that the Toad character that he uses as part of that too, right? Do you want to just explain the Toad a little bit too?
Yeah, Toad is just a character from a number of his poems, and maybe we could call it an alter ego, a persona. Usually, when the funnier poems, I think he probably uses Toad.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean it's basically him in many ways, but just this sort of funny character. So I don't know the reality. Somebody out there probably does. If that was a nickname that he actually was called, or if he just invented it. But yeah. But when I went to write this, I immediately had the voice of Toad in my head, and Jerry's voice. So
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about that.
Awesome. Well, I should say, if anybody has any stories or knows the story of Toad or anything, wants to call in just to talk, that this episode can be a bit of a remembrance of Jerry. Feel free to call in just for that, even if you didn't write a poem about him. Happy to take any calls later on in the next hour about that. But do you want to go ahead and read your poem, Clint?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thanks.
Toad dies and goes to heaven in memory of Gerald Lachlan. Nobody is more surprised than he is. First of all, Toad doesn't believe in heaven. And secondly, even if he did, he never expected to visit. In fact, he's minorly disappointed. Has he failed to achieve the properly debauched life he so often courted? But the food tastes good, and you can drink all the frothy beer you want and never have to go to the bathroom. The salads are made just the way he likes them, too, with lots of crunchy iceberg lettuce and a good Roquefort dressing. But who is he kidding? Nobody eats salad here. At least there aren't any white clouds or saints with halos, just a dive bar with a few pretty angels. They even have a poetry night, and though the audience is dead and the open mic literally goes on forever, this time it isn't annoying, but filled with names like Dante and Homer and Shakespeare and Zimborska. Hello, Toad, says his old pal Bukowski, who approaches the bar and pulls up a stool. Good to see you again, Hank, says Toad, as they drink their glasses and take a drink, not to their health, but ours.
Excellent. Thanks so much for sharing that, Clint. And once again, that was Toad Dies and Goes to Heaven in memory of Gerald Lachlan, who died last week. Yeah, thanks again for calling in, sharing that poem, and talking to us today, Clint.
Sure.
Excellent. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye. That was Clint Margrave, of course, with Toad Dies and Goes to Heaven. And like I said, if anybody has any stories about Gerald Laughlin that they'd like to share, feel free to call in and use the open mic for that, too. Let's see. So I'm going to do... Excellent. We have Tuesday's poet here, too. Excellent. So we'll... let me share one more poem, and then we'll call up Elora Young next, which is going to be really exciting. But this is I thought every time we publish a poem on Thursday, we kind of don't get to share it on Poet Respond live. So I thought we would share this. Wendy Vitalock wrote this poem on ceremony after the inauguration, and we published it on Thursday. And this is actually the first time I've ever heard Wendy Vitalock's voice. We've published her maybe 6 or 7 times. She's a little... shy, I guess, to share audio usually, but she did this time. It was great to hear. And she also, I'm happy to say, is going to be a guest on the Rattlecast for a full hour on March 16th. So we're looking forward to that. But let's hear really quick. This is Wendy Vitalock's On Ceremony about the inauguration this week. Let me drop out Clint really quick. Okay, here's On Ceremony by Wendy Vitalock.
Rituals, anthropologists will tell us, are about transformation. That's Abraham Verghese. On ceremony. In winter, the house of grief deepens. Down in the dark earth, small mouths sipping. Someone reading, someone seeking some kind of feeling, some kind of healing. A child has eyed a star-spangled banner. The gray dove's feather, another bleak scandal. There, in the window, someone burns a solitary candle.
And that was Wendy Vitalock with On Ceremony. I'm not sure she included that music with the audio. I'm not sure if that's her playing. It sounded like maybe 2 guitars, maybe a slide and a regular guitar. I don't know. I'm not a musician. But I wonder if that was Wendy. We'll have to ask her. She's very talented. She's an artist and it's a wonderful poet. So we'll be with her on March 16th, I think is the date that she signed up. And now we have an extra special treat. We have a Tuesday's poet as well. This is Elora Young. Elora is the Youth Poet Laureate of the Southern United States out of Tennessee. And she has this poem, Ode to the Cameraman, also about the inauguration and Martin Luther King Day last week. And let's call up Elora right now. We have a lot of callers, too, lined up for the open mic portion of the show. So... Elora, hello. Great to see you. Thanks so much. Let me pull you in for everybody. Hello. Hi. Yeah, I'm so glad we could connect. I was a little worried, especially we have, the power outages going on and trying to email back and forth. I wasn't even sure we'd be live or we'd be able to get you, but thanks so much for joining us.
Hi, it's so great to be here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you and see you. You're on screen and you're live on the broadcast. If you were watching before, I should remind everybody. So I should remind you too to turn off your YouTube or Facebook or wherever you're watching, or Twitter, okay. So you're not confused because there's a delay. But yeah, well, so glad you could join us. So you are a high school student and just a wonderful poet, and like we said, the Youth Poet Laureate of the Southern United States. Congratulations on that. And you have this wonderful poem that I just loved. And one of the things I wanted to mention too, just for everybody out there, is that I really wish we had more spoken word style type poems. We did a slam issue like 15 years ago, and I was always hoping that more slam poets and performance poets would send work. And it just doesn't happen much, I think, because performance poets don't tend to think of the page very much. So it's just wonderful to have this poem, too, and such a variety of poems about the events going on right now. So do you want to explain a little bit, what does it mean to be the Southern Youth Poet Laureate? What is that?
Okay, so basically the Youth Poet Laureate program is a program that considers youth who are both artist and activist. So they have this competition where in like 50 different cities around the country, you compete with other artists and activists to represent your city as like the voice of the youth through the arts. So your goal is to be an activist through creative writing. And so I was the Youth Poet Laureate of Nashville, which is where I live, and last year. And basically the competition goes up and up and up. And so I'm currently the Youth Poet Laureate of the entire South because I won the next level of the competition to become that. And then next I will hopefully be competing for the National Youth Poet Laureate, which is what Amanda Gorman, who spoke at the inauguration, is. And I'm really passionate about spoken word poetry, and I'm actually doing research proposals right now. I'm still in high school, so like it's really hard to get a professor to accept my research proposals, but I am trying to do experiments to compare traditional rhetorical argumentative tactics to spoken word in order to see how we can use meter and rhyme and all the different aspects of performance poetry in order to improve our argumentation and the reception of knowledge and memory of speeches and performances given. And I think it could have a really interesting impact on our political field and in the education of kids with learning disabilities, because as someone with learning disabilities, spoken word poetry was an incredible way for me to circumvent my less well-working parts of my brain. And so that's something I'm very passionate about and something I'm very active in.
Oh, that's interesting too. I don't know if you know that our next issue of Rattle that's coming out in the spring is a tribute to neurodiversity. And a whole lot of the poets in that issue are dyslexic, including Michael Mark, who we interviewed for the issue. So he talks a lot about that and about how that influences poetry. But that's wonderful too. The way that in this poem, everybody will see when you read it in just a minute, but the way that you move up the rhymes sort of sneak up on you in a really cool way that really adds to the argument. So I find it really interesting that you said that. Do you want to explain a little bit about what inspired this poem and the writing process of it? I assume it was Martin Luther King Day and the inauguration happening. So it was written just in this last week, I imagine, right?
Yes. So basically what happened was I was invited to speak at an MLK Day event, and I procrastinated really, really hard. And then there was a coup, and then I was like, the interesting thing about this crazy happening and all of the things that have been building up over the course of the last few weeks is not just that this is an insane time, but how much of it is only known, how much of it is only becoming real to the general populace because of things like this crazy photo I saw in an NPR article, like at the end of last week. And like, you know, the photo of the man with the horns on his head?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course.
And it's just like, those pictures, those are the things that change narratives. Because for so long, it was simply, you said this happened, and there was no proof because there weren't cameras everywhere, and so everyone just went with it. But starting in like the civil rights movement in the 60s, cameras started arriving, and they were using cameras to change narratives. And I feel like that is the most vital piece of our current attempt at moving the world forward. And it's also something that can be used in an incredibly sinister way, as we have seen with Twitter recently. And they actually, another thing I read last week that helped me write this poem was learning that there was like a 70% decrease in talk about falsified election results once Donald Trump was banned from Twitter.
Yeah, I think it's such an astute observation too, because, you know, the attempts to sort of constrain Trump and get rid of him, you know, through the 2 impeachments, and everything that was going on, all the the media, the constant attention about what was happening. It was really the whole narrative shifted with just the visuals from that event, in which that was the end of there was a period on the end of the Trump sentence or something, with those photos that you mentioned. So it's a that is what drives history, is narrative. So yeah, great observation there. Do you want to go ahead and read the poem now?
Yes.
Okay, and you'll have to read it on your own side or whatever. You can't read it from the screen here, but go ahead whenever you're ready. I'll put it up for everybody at home.
I can't actually see anything happening on the screen. You're frozen, and you have been.
Oh, am I?
Yes.
Okay. Well, just go to your own.
Yeah, I have it memorized.
Okay. Oh, you have it memorized already. Okay, awesome. Well, let's hear it then. I'll put it up for everybody at home.
I'm a spoken word poet, and I'm super dyslexic, so I memorize all of my poems because I can't sight read very well.
Well, that is awesome. I'm so glad. We always talk about it too. We wish more poets would memorize their poems. So that's wonderful. Go ahead whenever you're ready.
This is an ode to the cameraman, for the poet and the pastor and the speeches that redefine legacies. It's the lens that takes history and makes it art. The art that makes wrong into revolution. The gun, the knee, we can never unsee the bodies of George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery, to Emmett Till, to all the faces painted on every memory. We were wrong. This revolution is live in living color. We are dying in HD. I had a dream that our lives went viral and that somehow Twitter set us free. The last 4 years have been etched into the flesh of progress like a burning cross. I can't help but reminisce about all the moments that Martin lost. You see, martyrs, those who die for a cause. We don't often think about their families. His legacy is infinite, but I'm sure Bernice just misses her daddy. Every Black man who dies in the street lies on top of the last 400 years of combat. Call me a hysteric or a heretic, but all I know is I want my God back. My God. Not the one who stands hand in hand with MAGA malice, who says they want us to stop counting ballots, to keep this new age two-paid Nero in an all-white palace. The only way out of the belly of this beast is through. We keep marching towards a freedom, but freedom's a concept. I don't get where we're marching to. This is an ode to the men who know how to win a war, to the men who take martyrs and make movements human. It's funny how 2020 looks just like 1965. I wonder what wisdom Martin would give me if he were still alive, if peace is still the best option. If we are headed towards his vision, are we going fast enough to stop them? This war is televised. These cameras have put the truth before our nation's eyes. My father taught me that God lies in the darkness as well. The plans of a holy man are often impossible for even him to find. We can never know the future God has woven inside of Martin's mind, but as we wander blind toward tomorrow, know that there is more in heaven than the road map. This is not a poem, it's a playbook. It's laid out in 24 frames. Look, the same stage has made the difference on every battlefield, because the camera, I swear, is the weapon victors wield. These men have made God a tool of their war. I ask you, tell me, was he not used as such before? It's more than shooting or violence. Progress moves in silence that makes it so we can't shake the feeling that change was made to come. In this non-poem lies the markers on our map to freedom, because I've shown you where we've come from. Martin made change. Not because he was made changed, but because the same stage holds the ghost of all its past plays. Seeing the future, is much the same as seeing the past, because my God has made the answers long before we've asked. The camera is the difference between armies of radicals and protest sabbaticals, whether X's are kisses or graves, whether we were kings or slaves. Martin's method of protest made true progress because the script was just too hard to flip. In God, he found the process. He made sure we didn't slip. Peaceful seats at counter sides, do no wrong in camera's eyes. That's why he changed so many minds. He changed a narrative. The first mission of Trump's modern fascism is to lose the fake news. He likes multi-takes with camera crews, making merch for propaganda crews so people will abandon who actually has their best interest at heart. I dare say a narrative is what split this country apart. When you want to change the world, first change a child's mind. Martin preached a life in words that had a joy like children find. When you start this next battle, call a cameraman, because war is in the people's minds. Kingdoms rise and fall, but the camera sees it all. Memories live past the trials that decide the truth of abuses and the phantoms that live in the call. The first time you see change, I promise, is never the beginning. Because for eras before, the prophets of yore had minds that had long been spinning. God gifts the words for the battle-winning narrative. Prophets just sing along. That's why in the streets people scream, I have a dream. That's God's music. We're just singing the song. We have our actors and our cameramen. We have God's script and our stage. Turn on the lights. Send the artist and rights and hope our revolution makes the front page.
Elora Young, thanks so much. That was powerful, beautiful poetry. Ode to the cameraman. So glad he could join us today. Honestly, the thing I love about Rattle is this, I get to sit here and read submissions and poets like you appear who I've never heard from before, but are just amazing. So thanks so much for sharing this with us all and being a guest today.
Thank you.
Yeah, have a good rest of your day, and I'll talk to you later.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
That was Elora Young. You can find Elora at, I think her website is... Yeah, Elora Young. That's ALORA Young.com. So find Elora there, a Nashville-based poet and high school student and national, what was the phrase? Youth Poet Laureate of the Southern United States. Thanks so much, once again, Elora Young. That was just great. And that'll be Tuesday's poem. So everybody who got a preview of today can enjoy it again in your emails and on rattle.com on Tuesday. So now it's already been a half an hour, and this show is going amazing. I can't believe I thought today would be a rough day with the power issues, and I was scrambling to get everything together, and it's working out great. And the no lag, the low latency mode on our software actually works. So we have a whole bunch of poets for the open mic portion of the open mic. And let me see. I think the first person who asked to join us is the 651 number. It was Patricia. She left a message, but we'll call Patricia now. And let's see. Not Patricia Rockwood. It's a different Patricia. Hey, this is Tim with Rattle, and this is Patricia. Oh, I hear myself in the background, so why don't you mute the stream? Okay. Hi. Patricia. What was your name?
Paulette Paschaman.
Oh, Paulette. Okay, great. Let me find your poem. Sorry about that for forgetting. Paulette. Oops. What did I do? Hang on one second.
That's just fine.
Okay. Paulette. And what was your poem about?
Sickness Unto Death, and it's basically about both insurrection and all of the misinformation that is causing the divide between us.
Excellent. Thanks so much. And so this is here. I have it here. Go ahead and read it whenever you're ready. I'll put it on screen for everybody who's watching.
And should I read it now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Sickness Unto Death, State of the Union. Calamity flows one into another until the river of dark angels melds, indistinguishable pandemic. This is how the world ends. The DNA of hubris, incubated in social media, misdirected with intent, insinuates our very selves. From our lofty thrones of indignation, we search the endless stream of malcontent, addicted to the abyss, salivating sensationalism, craving the worst of, by, and for the worst. Rich, poor, right, left, all the colors and isms from all the nooks and crannies, the palaces and shitholes. We choose our facts to support our fables. Our collective vitriol propels us toward the black hole of our beastly desires. Fracked by chaos, torn asunder, we take our place in history, invalid, immaterial, signifying nothing.
Excellent. I love that ending. Thanks so much. It was Sickness Unto Death by Paulette Paschaman from Cotton, Minnesota. Is that right?
That's correct.
Excellent. Well, thanks so much. I'm glad you could call in and share that, and hope you do again.
Thank you.
Yep. Bye. Let me add, since Paulette's never called in before, always nice to have new first-time callers. Thanks, Paulette. Let me add Paulette to the our call list so we know who it is next time. Okay. Let's call up Jennifer Gothier. I'm not sure if it's Gothier or Gothier, but let's call up Jennifer either way. Hey, Jennifer, happy Sunday. How you doing?
Hey, happy Sunday.
We don't have any video yet if you want to use it.
Yeah, let me just see. Okay. Hold on. Yes, here it is. Okay, sorry.
Okay, and is it Gothier or Gothier?
Gothier, that's right, yeah.
Okay, gotcha. And you have...
Can you hear me? I'm on headphones today.
You are perfect. We hear you great. We see you great. And what do you have to share for us today? Is it via Viola's Blues?
Viola's Blues, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I just... because it was the commemoration of Martin Luther King Jr. Day, I was reading an old New Yorker post. It was a letter by Renata Adler. She was on the march, and she was sort of chronicling what happened on the march. And at the end of this letter, she mentioned the death of a woman named Viola Liuzzo. And so I started Googling around, doing some research like a good academic, and discovered that this is the only woman who was killed, the only white woman who was killed during the civil rights era, and just became fascinated by her life, was reading a little more about her, and created the poem. And then, well, it existed as a different kind of a poem first, and then it became sort of my attempt at a blues song. I'm not sure if it works. Going back to your point earlier about guitar, I wish I played the guitar so I could accompany myself reading it. But I'd love people's feedback to see if, I don't know. I've never written anything like this before. It might work better just as a different kind of poem. But I wanted to just share Viola with folks. Excellent.
Well, that sounds really fun. Thanks so much for sharing this. I'm looking forward to hearing it. Viola's Blues. Go ahead whenever you're ready. I'll put it up.
Absolutely. Thank you. Viola's Blues, with thanks to Robin Rogers. Motor City Mama, driving through the night. Motor City Mama, driving through the night. Behind the wheel of her Oldsmobile. 800 miles, Alabama bound. 800 miles, Alabama bound. To do what's right, it's everybody's fight. Pavement 'neath her feet, she's carrying her shoes. Pavement 'neath her feet, she's carrying her shoes. Singing as they march, with hope inside their hearts. Viola, Viola, slandered and beset. History betrayed you, but will save you yet. 5 babes at home, she's doing it for them. 5 babes at home, she's doing it for them. Little boys and girls will have a better world. Shot rings out, Leroy grabs the wheel. Shot rings out, Leroy grabs the wheel. Targeted by hate, change will come too late. Cut down twice, first the KKK. Cut down twice, first the KKK. Then the crooked FBI, J. Edgar had a spy. Viola, Viola, slandered and beset. History betrayed you, but we won't forget. Motor City Mama, freedom fighter too. Motor City Mama, freedom fighter too. Driving through the night to do what's right.
Excellent. Thanks so much for sharing that. And that was Viola's Blues by Jennifer Gothier, and that was really fun. I wish there's a guitar back there. I wish I was the kind of musician where I could just pick it up and hear what you're doing, but I am not that skilled. But maybe someday if I practice a lot, I can join in for poems like these. But thanks so much for sharing that, Jennifer. That was great.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Take care, Tim.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, I love this. I on your end you can't tell, but this low latency mode is really makes life a lot easier because there's like a delay in the feed usually that you're seeing, and so I have to, like, if someone says something that's like funny or something and I laugh, I have to like hold it until I don't know. It's much better this way, and we aren't dropping frames, so that's great. Let's call up Richard Westheimer. He hasn't been on in a little while. See what Richard has for us today. Hey, Richard, how you doing today?
Hey, Tim Green. It's good to see you. And your new camera has added on YouTube color to your face.
I'm trying. Equipment is so cheap. It's not like anything's expensive, so you might as well have better stuff than a $40 webcam, I guess. So now we upgraded to a $150 webcam.
That looks great.
Oh, great. I'm glad. So you have, what do you have for us? Intersection. Is that the poem you wanted to share?
Yeah, which I wrote before seeing your discussion on the poetic nature of Amanda Gorman's poem that you had on Facebook.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I only posted that friends only, and so we're friends, so you can see that. Yeah, but I try not to comment too much about anything, but yeah, to me, my opinion is that there's a different purposes for poetry. You know, we talked in the critiques a lot about private versus public poems that you want to share, but there's like a third, which is the occasional poem. Yeah, and it was just a great example of that, which is a different needs and different sensibilities than other poems. But anyway, so what do you want to say about this though, Intersection?
Well, I came down on the side of this was a poem as much as, you know, what she did was poetry, even though it was, you know, as much sermon as, you know, for the Church of State, as it were, and sort of a inaugural speech, but it did what poetry does, which is sort of move from the back and forth between the imaginative and feeling and word. So this is just my thoughts about what it looked like from the crowd.
Excellent. Well, let's go ahead. Whenever you're ready.
Incidentally, I know a previous caller said that your image had frozen on their screen, and your image has frozen on my screen.
Oh, really?
Also, I know it's not frozen on YouTube. I can see that.
Yeah, I wonder why. I'll have to look into that later.
Okay.
But good. Yeah, but I have here I have my phone running to make sure that it's working, so I can check that. But okay.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah, I'll check that out later. Thanks for letting me know.
Okay, so Intersection, and the epigraph from Joel, which is one of the minor prophets in the Jewish Bible. Your sons and daughters shall prophesy, your old shall dream dreams, and your youth shall see visions. The poet shone like a nova, a new star rising from the dais. She spoke brilliance that rivaled the light that streamed through the parting clouds, but like any sun, could not see the shadows cast by her own bright light. Only the glow on the faces of a nation reflected back to her as she rose fierce and lyrical. Most of the elders gathered there, like lunar satellites in a sky of her making, were made luminous by her, reflected on her words, were dazzled by what she saw. Others, blind to her light, heard only the cawing of crows nested in their heads. The wise ones there knew all about the casting of shadows. Some had even traded in darkness, had forged troubled unions of dark and light. But they knew this black star before them was Antares to their lurking Aries. In that moment, they felt that this night's moon, bathed in her corona, could make them brave enough to face what lurks in the penumbral places.
Excellent. Thanks so much for sharing that, Richard. A great way to save the thoughts and put the thoughts out about that. Really remarkable for poetry. It was an very interesting week for poetry. There's not much poetry news in the world. It was a very poetic week for a change, which doesn't have much.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I first sort of reacted to my friend's reaction to the poem. What a poem! This is the best poem I ever heard. Sort of like being protective of what poetry was, but then I got over myself and realized that their appreciation for words is great. And it's not my place to say what's, quote, good for poetry.
Yeah. Well, excellent. Thanks so much for sharing that, Richard. Always a pleasure. Good to see you, too.
Good to see you. Bye.
Bye. So it's Richard Westheimer, of course, from Ohio with Intersection. And let's see, who should we have next? There's a whole bunch of people lined up. Let's call Nivida so she doesn't have to stay up too late over in India. Hey, Nivida. Yeah, hello. How are you doing?
Hi, Tim. I'm doing great. Thank you. How about you?
I'm doing great. It's a really fun morning so far. A lot of great poems.
Really good ones.
Yeah. So what do you have for us this morning or this evening?
As usual, I went off the beaten track and I saw this news article on BBC about how it's the end of 9-to-5 week work days, basically. And I was like, well, it's been on for a year, so it's a little late to be writing about that. But still, it was in the current news. And I was like, let's put a fun spin on it. And this is my attempt at a doggerel.
Oh, excellent.
I'm not really sure I captured the true intent, but then I feel it's fun. And I was like, why not share it? So
yeah,
that's what it is.
Yeah,
the reality of work from home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so great to mix it up too and have different different tones and styles and things like that. Mm-hmm. And so I'm always really appreciate what you do. Here is the reality of work from home. Go ahead whenever you're ready.
Thank you. The reality of work from home, a doggerel. The grass needs a trim, the electricity bill needs to be paid, but the weather is just perfect for a swim. Oh, how my mind has strayed. I need to send out an email and dispatch 4 projects due today. Then, maybe for lunch I'll have a salad of cucumber and kale and probably head out for a run before the sky turns dark and grey. But wait, the dishes need to be done, the washed clothes must be hung. And guess what? It's already time for lunch. 6 p.m., post-lunch nap successfully done, but amount of work done today? Absolutely none. I take a deep breath and sit at the desk. Hastily, I finish up half the work while my brain is still hazy from its nap. Off late, my mind just runs berserk, not following the coordinates of my work map.
Excellent. That was a great doggerel. Thanks for sharing that, Nivida. And I've been working at home for like 10 years now, and I like it. I love it. So everybody else, I feel like everybody else gets to share in the beauty and amazement of working at home and having, you're so much more productive, I think, actually. But
It depends. Again, I would argue that it depends.
yeah, for sure.
It can be productive depending on the environment. And then again, you're like, oh, I'm at home. The couch is right there, like,
Yeah.
I'll just take a quick 5-minute break, and then 5 minutes turns to 2 hours.
Well, when you're a
And then before
workaholic,
you know it, it's the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much, Nivida, for sharing that. Hope you have a good night.
Thank you. Have a great Sunday.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay. And that was, of course, Nivida Karthik with the reality of work from home. And let's call up, we have a whole lot of people. Let's call up, Kathy Gibbons hasn't been on in a while, I don't think. Let's call up Kathy, see what she has for us. About the bust of Winston Churchill. Hey, Kathy, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you today?
I'm doing great. It's an excellent morning so far.
It's been fabulous. Thank you for providing it for us.
Yeah, my pleasure. So what do you have to share?
I have a poem that I wrote in 2016, actually, but it's come back into currency a little bit because of recent happenings. And in 2016, it was about it was about a bust, a bronze bust that had been removed from the White House by President Obama when he became president of Churchill. It had been on loan to, I think, George W. was the one who received the loan, and there was a big brouhaha, and the then mayor of London, Boris Johnson, had sent a letter, I think, to the editor somewhere about that this was perhaps an attempt to, insinuating that this was a reaction from I believe his expression was a part Kenyan against colonizers. And so anyway, this went on, and it turns out there have been, and more than one bust of Churchill in the White House. And the reason that it becomes, once again, relevant, if superficial, is that apparently Biden has also come under scrutiny for removing a bust from, I believe, the Oval Office of Churchill. So.
Interesting. Yeah. I
anyway,
heard
and it's a lighter, I hope it's a lighter take on it, on the insanity of, the inanity of, focusing on things like this and the color of Air Force One and Rolex watches when we have so much more pressing news upon us.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's hear it. Busted. Go ahead whenever you're ready.
Busted. Winston has left the building. The mayor of London rants about the spurn our president gave the empire when he returned the graven image of the minister. A pronouncement bandied widely for these past 8 years, half-varnished truths and sound bites by the likes of Cruz and White House spokesman, never quite a resolution to be found. Son of a Kenyan accused of a snub, a slight to the colonizers. But what if Winston's just lounging in a bubbly tub with a good cigar and a glass of champagne, thinking up wicked aphorisms about ugly women? It seems the Oval Office got ahead. A new one, apparently, first reported to be Abe, who's been seen hanging around the White House for years. But the wordsmiths and the hucksters had it wrong. Obama claims Reverend King is the man who took the stand, who occupies the hallowed ground, and rightly so. This White House was won by a black man, he said, but only through trials, through years and tears of the champions who rallied and stood their ground for civil rights. The Epstein bust of Churchill was on loan from Blair to Bush, but a clone exists, a gift to LBJ that POTUS passes every day. It occupies another throne outside his private treaty room. Winston Churchill, Obama loves the guy. They watch basketball games together and probably commiserate on the bites and barbs one must withstand to command as any head of state must do. This is all very indecorous and quite silly, and one might think to each his own taste, to the victor go the spoils, and the chance to decorate his home in his own style. Like floating heads of Futurama, these disembodied noggins have plagued President Obama, and aside from just collecting dust, so many heads create a clutter bust of such absurdity and fuss. Well, Dostoevsky said it best. If God doesn't exist, who's laughing at us? But hey, then again, maybe two heads are better than one.
That was great. Thanks so much. I love that quote by Dostoevsky. And it's so weird. I hadn't know. I heard this story this week about the bust. I had no idea it was like recycled from 2000, whenever that was.
It's amazing. It's the narrative again, as Elora alluded. I mean, it's all about these stories that are being told us, and I think I actually believe that the Biden. I have a couple links on there, and the Biden one has sort of slunk away, with its tail between its legs a little bit,
well,
which it should be doing. So
yeah, that's good to hear. That I don't care about the busts or the Rolex or any of that stuff. That's for sure. Well, thanks so much for sharing that, Kathy. It's always a pleasure.
Thanks for letting me read it.
Yep.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Okay, well, we're definitely not going to have enough time for everybody this week, but let me make sure we get to all the first-time callers, and we have an 847 number who has tried to call in a few times. Actually, yeah, whoever this was isn't technically a first-time caller, but they haven't been on, and I didn't write down who it was, since June 14th. So we'll see who this was, 847, and I'll make sure to put it in the phone book after, so we know who it is for next time. We'll see.
Hey, Tim.
Hey, this is Tim with Rattle. Did you want to share a poem?
Yeah, Tim, this is Kashiana. I'm going to shut off my feed 1 second. Hold on.
Kashiana, so great to see you, or hear you.
Yeah.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you doing? For some reason, my number doesn't save for you with the name, so you always see it as a number by itself.
Well, that's okay. Yeah, we have you here on the line. And did you want to share caravans?
Yes, it's a series of haiku, and I can probably just pick a couple and share.
Well, I think
let me know when you're ready.
They're not too long. You could go ahead and read them all, I think.
Yeah.
But what is it?
Okay.
What inspired the poems?
Yep. So this one goes back. We probably got a few poems about the migrant crisis in India, where just at the beginning of the pandemic, around the May-June timeframe, there was a large migrant population that had moved. The reason I rewrote something about that was I read a paper by this Institute of Human Rights in Business. They published a paper which actually, it's called Migrant Voices, Stories of India's Migrant Workers, and they went into these migrant homes now that they were in the villages and just talked about what's happening with their lives now, so many months after. And it was really impactful just reading those stories, because we forget about it right at the peak of the moment, going back to the narrative theme. There are pictures, there are stories, there are poems, there's television, and then everybody is like, okay, where are they? But these are real lives that are still impacted now as well. So
Yeah,
that's really what inspired me to write that.
Yeah, well, I'm so glad you did. I put this report just at the front page of it up on screen for everybody. This is, if you want to find anybody, it's at ihrb.org, and I'm sure you can find it probably on the front page of that website. I'm not sure what that stands for.
It's the Institute of Human Rights in Business.
Yeah, I see that now. Okay, so that's, so go ahead if anybody wants to check this out. But go ahead, Kashiana, whenever you want to share these haiku, go ahead.
Yep. And the haiku, it talks about a few of them go into the journey itself. Again, to remind, this was a journey on foot for many of these migrant workers and their families. For days together, some of them as long as 8, 10, 12 days walking on foot. The uprooting, the difference between, or the juxtaposition between the fields that they were going back to in their villages and the city life they had come for, which is working in factories. So there's the irony of really, where are their roots? Is it in the villages where they came from, or what the life that they had come for in terms of factory? So those are the type of things that this haiku is talking about. I'll start reading.
Excellent, thanks.
The series is called Caravans. Scarecrows, prayer flags fluttering over empty towns. Water wheel, a newborn swaddled in a sari cloth. cracked soles, serpentine roads bend into shadows, harvest moon, walking homewards for 8 nights, howling dogs, us huddled together under the moon, bridal songs, awakened ceremony performed, open skies, choosing to stay or to go, classes gathered in school from all classes, resistance, a poem gathering on WhatsApp, distance, finding roots beneath banyan trees.
Yeah, thanks so much. I love these. This is one of the ones I was thinking about for this week. I'm always a big fan of haiku, and there's some excellent ones and an important story too. So thanks for sharing that, Kashiana.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you for having me.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye. That was Kashiana Singh from Vernon Hills, Illinois, with Caravans. And you can find more about Kashiana and on her website, Kashiana, that's KASHIANA.wordpress.com right here. Okay, let me do one more. We're not going to have time for everybody. I'm sorry for but we still have like 10 people on the list. I think we'll do one more poet. Ron Lauterbach has been on, has never been on before. So let's do Ron Lauterbach as the last first time caller. And then if we didn't get to you today, of course, you can do the open mic on Tuesday. So feel free to join us then. But let's call up Ron Lauterbach, who says he sent his poem, and I have it right here. A dog
Hello?
for the masses. Hey, Ron, how you doing?
Good. Let me turn you off.
Okay. And we don't see you yet either. If you want the camera to come in. Are you there? I think I still hear you. Do you hear me?
Yeah,
Ron?
I'm here.
Oh, okay, good.
I'm here. Okay.
Okay, great. If you want to use the camera, it's the button between the hang up and the mute, the little square icon thing.
Between the hang up?
Yeah, it's a little camera icon type thing. There's the red hang up button, and there's the mute, and then in between is the camera.
Oh, I got to get back. You know what? I'll just read it. I'm not.
Okay.
You don't have to see me.
Okay, well, that's fine. Well, tell us a little bit. Tell us what it's about, though.
This is a poem, and is it on the screen for other people?
Yeah, I'll put it up. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and the reason that I wanted you to put it up is that the form is a form that a San Diego poet friend of mine, Ron Salisbury, introduced me to. And it has to be, it's in this block form. It can be 9 lines. And of course, it has to fit perfectly within that form.
Interesting. Well, for me on my screen, it actually doesn't. But I'm sure that it does for yours. I think that it dropped some of the formatting in the email preview window or whatever. But it is a perfect square as intended. Right.
Okay. A dog for the masses, after Robert Frost. It is an amazing animal, this 2-dimensional dog with bullseye circle around one eye. You can click on anything you want, and it disappears for an instant, as if to fetch your purchase, then comes back center screen to satisfy your next request. This dog is smart. It can show you how to pay with PayPal, Visa, Venmo, or help you complete a store credit application. It will show you how to find past purchases and offers new, similar merchandise. Just yesterday, the dog got me a quart of half and half, and although I didn't buy it, offered flavored coffee. It is a compassionate canine that suggests contributions to local and international causes. Nobody seems to husband the dog, but it appears well-fed and cheerful at any time. I've seen this dog before. It looks so American, it's almost an icon. One could do worse than be an online shopper.
I love the ending. Thanks so much for sharing. That was Ron Lauterbach. And where are you calling from, Ron? I forgot to ask.
I live in San Diego.
Excellent. Yeah. So Ron Lauterbach from San Diego. Thanks so much.
It actually got down below 50 here last night, so we're cold too.
Yeah, it's 20 out. We're up at over a mile high. So be glad you're warm there.
Thank you for letting me do this.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks, Ron. Bye. Okay, so that's going to have to be the show, like I said. Yeah, we have to put new callers first, but we're love that we have callers every week. Thanks so much to everybody who has stuff that you can share with us. Let me put this up. Oh, okay. Yeah. So if it didn't get to you today, we can call you. You can call in on Tuesday's open mic show and share your news poem that you wanted to share today, or the prompt, or just anything else you'd like to share, or recently published poems or anything like that. Let's finish up really quick with the Saiku for today. And the Saiku is a story. It's based on this article from the Journal of the Royal Society Interface. So basically, scientists put a butterfly into a wind tunnel for the first time ever, just to examine the aerodynamics of their wings, which for a long time, I don't know how you could think this and be an evolutionary biologist, but they thought that it was a very inefficient way to fly, having these sort of thick, floppy wings. And it turns out, though, if you put them in a wind tunnel, that they use the clapping motion to push air back behind them like a little propulsion jet. And it actually makes them fly like a quicker, faster than they could otherwise. And so for avoiding predators, of course, being able to move quickly and erratically is a real great evolutionary benefit, which is why they can do it. And so I'll show you this really quick before I read the tiny haiku. This is the actual image of the butterfly in the wind tunnel that they took. It's a very, very short 7-second clip here. Here we go. Watch the butterfly take off. That's it. Silver-washed fritterly taking off. And that is from Lund University. And so this is my Saiku based on that little nice story. Here it is. Bobbing butterfly. Answers to the question of one hand clapping. Bobbing butterfly answers to the question of one hand clapping. That is my Saiku for today. Hope you enjoyed that. A little science news to start out your Sunday. Now, next week's guest in the Rattlecast, coming up just 2 days from now on Tuesday, is Dana Gioia. And as you know, Dana Gioia was the chairman of the NEA. He was the Poet Laureate of California. His most recent book is Studying with Miss Bishop, Memoirs from a Young Writer's Life, where he talks about the poets that influenced him, very much like Gerald Loughlin influenced Clint Margrave. It's a book of his experiences in that vein. The prompt for this week was to write what was it? It was write an alphabet poem, an acrostic poem where the first letter of each line is the alphabet, so A, B, C, D going down. And if you're really brave and bold, you can try to do a double acrostic of that, where it runs on the other side at the last letter of each line, Z to A, and see if that's even possible. I mean, you have to figure out a way to end with Q, which maybe you can have a QU or something like that. That's a very, very challenging poem prompt. So if you want to try that, feel free to, and join us Tuesday, January 26th, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. But of course, at the open mic, you can share whatever you like. We'll spend an hour with Dana Gioia, and then we'll have the open lines again. So that's Rattlecast number 77, Tuesday, January 26th, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Hope to see you then. Hope you have a great day, and don't forget to click the like button on our Facebook post. That would be very helpful to everybody. Even if you could just go to our Facebook page and click a bunch of likes or hearts or something even better, that would be wonderful. So hope you do that, and hope you have a great day. Talk to you soon. Goodbye.